Hey everyone, Ben here and welcome back to the channel, and in particular welcome back to Automobilista 2 hot off the press. F1 2022 style cars have arrived in AMS2 as a free update, and I have jumped straight in and had a first blast around Interlagos, both doing a few warm-up installation laps in practice, which I'm now showing you a bit of footage from, but then also straight into a race against the AI. And I am really happy to report that they're a blast. Really good fun to drive straight out of the box. I've got to say, more enjoyable, for me at least, and this is all subjective, than the recent IndyCar output as well. Here's a quick look at the car model and what are we dealing with? Well, for me, it looks like this car has been based on the F1 stock model for the 2022 car. That version of the chassis that was so prevalent in some of the initial media launches from the F1 teams. It looks fantastic. I think it's a really nice car model. But you can see there the kind of cooling vents at the top of the side pod. Now obviously this is a generic take on F1 2022, so you won't have that full variety on the grid that you do have in real life, but really nice car model. Speaking of being on the grid, we are already underway in the practice race that I set about running to put this car through its paces. So let's get into that then as we dive into T1 alongside a stacked grid of AI drivers running at 90 difficulty, 90 aggression, and I have to say immediately, compared to the AI in the IndyCar, that was a superb trip through T1 and the Senna S's. Honestly, I had to take 5 or 6 goes early on when driving in the IndyCar to get through T1 safely without there being a huge pile-up of AI drivers. This is genuinely my first race running these cars as we're down the inside of 2 drivers as the pack concertinas together there. Made up a couple of spots here on the opening lap. But genuinely, first go at putting these cars into a race, and really impressed that the AI were able to navigate what is a very tricky T1 and then opening set of corners. Settling down a little bit now, we've got a little bit of pressure from behind as we managed to get around the outside of our teammate there in the Spartan green, and we're up into 14th position as we come towards the end of lap 1. So, good initial impressions of the AI, but what does the car feel like to drive as we're on the outside again of another couple of cars coming down into T1? We're just able to swoop around the outside, give plenty of space on the inside for the AI there, and we're able to get on the gas through the Senna S's and maintain position. Well, honestly, as you can tell from how excited I am commentating on the race and how easily I'm getting to grips with the car and able to joust with the AI, it drives really well. I couldn't tell you whether it sort of authentically simulates the ground effects that these new F1 cars have. It does feel distinct. Whoa, as I nearly lose it there under braking. It does feel distinct from the other modern Formula 1 car that has been in AMS2 since launch. And I suppose the way in which it does is that it does feel a little bit more twitchy coming through some of the slower corners. It doesn't feel as on rails as that other Formula Ultimate generation car does. And I suppose that is some of the feedback that you've had from drivers in the real world driving these new generation of Formula 1 cars. So to that extent, it is authentic. But more than that, it's difficult for me to say as I'm lining up another move. Down the inside, will the AI cut back across us? They don't. They maintain their line, keep the space on the inside, and we are through and now up into the top 10. And if you're enjoying the video so far, if you're finding it helpful, it would be great if you could leave a like and get subscribed to the channel for more as we barrel down the hill and into the left-hander cars jostling for position up ahead of us. So an authentic feeling car, it sounds great. DRS works as you might imagine it to, so does the ERS, really helpfully displayed down in the bottom right hand corner just below the fuel. You can turn that up and down from recharging mode up into the highest levels of electrical energy, which then gives you a speed boost, and you have to manage that through the race. You can see the blue bar depleting as we're on the sort of middle setting at the moment, the 3 arrows. That will go all the way way down to 0 if I don't manage it through the course of the race, but it will top back up again if I put it down into lower modes. As we get a decent exit then from the final corner. Oh, we're gaining massively on the 2 cars up ahead. The Alpine liveried car peels off into the pit lane. They must have some sort of an issue, must have picked up some damage from fighting with another car there. We were able to get through the middle of the 2 cars, and we're up now into 8th position as we approach the halfway point of this race. Closing in again on the car up ahead, getting down onto the brakes, not close enough to make a move down into the left-hander. So yeah, all in all, initial impressions, I've got to say, really, really good. I can see myself enjoying these cars an awful lot, particularly as I turn more laps and get used to the various quirks on the handling. I'm taking it probably at around 75-80%, I would say, running in this race. Partly to give the AI a little bit of space, but also partly because, as you see there with the AI car just up ahead, these cars will just be a little bit loose on corner exit if you're not very careful with your throttle inputs. As we come through the final sector then, through Youngcow and up the hill once again, we're running a PB lap time here. You can see on the Delta in the middle of the screen, we're going to peel to the inside here as it looks like we might be able to make yet another move. And actually we've got such an overspeed, we're going to go 3 wide with the AI. We're hard on the brakes at the 100-meter board. We've got the apex, but we do just about get turned in on there from the AI car. Not too bad. He did, it seems, recognise that he was coming into our space. We were then able to get through the corner without getting completely squeezed out. We were then closing in on that same car for the next couple of laps. We've rejoined the live action once more. This is probably the sketchiest thing I've seen from the AI. That is a little bit like running in a ranked server with a very late block into the braking zone. And as you'll see, we came together with him, was able to hold it from a slide. But just a reminder that the AI, although impressive so far, are a little bit lethal from time to time. And you can see we've picked up big front wing damage in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. And the car did not handle well for the rest of the race. Luckily we've got less than a minute to go, and now we're on to the very final lap, coming up the hill for the very final time. We've lost a couple of positions. We're back down into 8th position, having climbed as high as 6th earlier in the race. But I'm not too worried about that. This was all just an exercise to get a feel for the car, to give you some early impressions from this build. It literally just came out a few hours ago, so these are very much my initial impressions from my very first race. Here's some replay footage then to give you a sense of how all of this looks from some of the off-board shots. As ever in AMS2, the graphics engine's brilliant, so you would expect it to look pretty good on track, and I think it does. Anyway, that's probably enough from me for this initial impressions on the new Formula cars in AMS2. They come free with the game. That's a really important thing to remember. So this is not part of any DLC. If you own the game, they will be now in your car selection menu, and I definitely recommend you going and giving them a try. I hope you found the video helpful. If you have, leave a like, get subscribed, and I will see you on the next one.